Hello everybody and welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. Robin here, your resident card curmudgeon, bringing you again my views, pros and cons of various decks, things I like, things I don't like about them. Today we have the Dante Tarot from Lois Scarabeo. It's illustrated by Guido Zibordi Marchesi, who also was the illustrator or creator of the Medieval Tarot, which I debuted, I believe, in my very first live video on YouTube a couple years ago. I very much like the illustration style of both of these decks. This one comes in one of these wonderful snug top lift boxes. I love these boxes. They're very handsome. And they're very sturdy. Now this is quite an unusual deck. I believe both this deck and the Medieval Tarot are fairly straightforward when it comes to the major arcana. However, when it comes to the minors, they don't really follow exactly the traditional RWS system. So you may have to just go by the labels when reading them or relearn your system for interpreting the images, because I think you'll find they don't really follow true to the standard RWS interpretations. Now this one comes with a really nice book, multi-language. However, there is quite an extensive essay near the beginning about Dante, and then not very much about the cards. There's a spread here in the front. Just a few keywords. There's kind of a prominent keyword like the Fool, strangeness, and then you have a positive and negative version. Positive, lightheartedness, lightness, freedom, creativity. Negative, sloppiness, irrationality, stupidity, madness. So you have keywords for all the cards. Oh, I also should point out that in the minors, these cards don't have symbols on them. They only have numbers. And they don't have the knave, knight, queen, king. They have numbers 11 through 14. So that may be of note to some of you, or some importance. We have a title card here. The cardstock is very thick, very sturdy, laminated. It feels glossier on the back. We have this kind of a, I don't know if that's considered a fleur-de-lis or something similar. It is reversible as far as I can tell. The front also has a lamination, but is not as glossy, which is nice, I think. I love that these cards are borderless. They have no text on them. There's a simple red border at the bottom with a smallish number indicating the card. You've got Roman numerals for the major arcana and Arabic numbers for the minors. And the minors are in various color schemes. Blue for swords, reddish brown for wands, sort of a different shade of blue for coins, and a kind of a, I don't know, beige or gray or something for cups. So let's have a look, shall we? Here we've got the Fool, which is kind of RWS and kind of Marseille. Magician. I really love his illustration style and the color palette. Now, actually, even though I like the color palette, this is sort of an odd deck. It kind of depresses me a little bit. There's a certain degree of claustrophobia to this deck. It also has an afternoon, evening feel to the coloring. You don't exactly feel like you're outdoors with these cards, but they have a kind of a afternoon light color to them. I'm sure most of these will be familiar to anybody familiar with the RWS. Number 6 here, the Lovers. Interesting that the angel seems to be missing the lower half of its body, as if it's coming through from another dimension or something. I love how much these cards are strictly the artwork and little else, but they still do have a little bit of a Q in the number at the bottom of the card. Here we have Justice in the number 8 position, which is traditional of the Marseille. Now, this is not a historical deck, but it does sort of follow, in some ways, some of the traditions of pre-RWS decks. We've got the Hermit here. Wheel. And Strength in the 11th position. Hanged Man. Skeleton. Death. Temperance. Now, one thing I got to say about Marchesi, I'm not fond of his devils. They are some of the creepiest looking devils that I've seen, and it may just be a matter of taste. We've got sort of purple and blue devils here that look like fur covered, with leathery wings and claws. I don't know, they have an almost werewolfish or Bigfoot kind of quality about them, or there's something quite disturbing to me particular about these devils. And I've seen a lot of different kinds of devil depictions, and I am not easily disturbed by most of them, but somehow not fond of the way he depicts the devil. Beautiful Tower card. I also love the expressions on the faces of his figures. This has a very kind of desert feel to me. And like I said, a certain claustrophobia, even when it's outdoors. These cards feel like there's sort of limitation. Like, look at the skies. It's like a flat plane of color. There's no dimension there. So they're almost like indoor tableaus. Now for the biners, and we start with the cups. And these are really claustrophobic. You can see they don't exactly have borders, except they all take place in these very small, confined rooms. The walls and ceilings create the borders, and they seem like shallow rooms too. There's almost like closets. You can see this is not your typical Three of Cups celebration. We have someone here with an angry face. Someone here looks like she's about to club the woman in the middle. A lot of these cards feel like they have full stories on each card. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think they will be great and open to interpretive or intuitive readings. Just not sure how good they'll be if you're trying to sort of force this into the RWS system, unless you simply go by the labels and ignore the content in the imagery. But I really do love the depictions in these cards. So here we have, for 11, this is the Page of Cups. See, Lo Scarabeo, who does this deck, they've gone from multiple languages on cards to symbols, and now in this one, they don't even have symbols, just numbers. So this is the Knight of Cups, Queen, and King. And we go on to Pentacles or coins. On the Ace of Coins, we have the signature or credit for the illustrator. That's the only text in the deck. They are very slippery cards. They will glide and shuffle very easily, I think. I don't riffle shuffle, but they're not so stiff that I don't think it would create any problems for a riffle shuffler. There's some very dramatic things going on in the cards. Here's a woman with a child. She's missing a hand. Here are two people embracing. One looks like they're ready to stab the other person with a knife. Very melodramatic imagery from the Middle Ages. I'm very curious to see how I get on with these cards, because as much as I love the odd imagery, and they are beautifully painted, I'm just not sure how I'm going to take to these kind of alternative representations of these cards. I do have a lot of symbols in them. I mean, I like in this one here, we have sort of slow movement of the Knight of Coins. He's got a yoke on his shoulders, which means he had been carrying something heavy. The horse is having trouble moving forward. It's one of its legs is entwined here. Another is tortured by briars. And then we also have these two snails in the background, sort of emphasizing that slow movement. Here we've got on the Queen of Coins, there's a heart on her crown and a diamonds card in her hand. Various symbols here. I'm not sure how one might read them. I love this Ace of Wands, or clubs. Interesting here with the Two of Wands, these sort of interlocking gear-like wheels that they're standing on. Let's see, there's one sort of clutching possessions, and there's this element of growth with the plant, sort of defense. Here, this one has an owl on its head, sort of a question maybe of the wisdom of holding on to things or trying to take them from another. I just don't quite know what to make of that. Three of Wands. Oh, I just noticed this suit is not in an enclosed room. It's outdoors, but it still has a pillar, looks like, on one side. That's interesting. Pillar perhaps corresponding to the vertical nature of the wand, maybe. I'm wondering how those of you who enjoy historical decks might feel or relate to this particular deck. I'm also not familiar enough with the work of Dante to know if his writings translate into some of the stories in these images. Now we have the swords. This is interesting because this looks like maybe an allusion to the ark on Mount Ararat. There are a few cards that have eyes and ears imagery on the cloaks, which I thought was interesting. Sort of a hint at witnesses or spies or gossip, maybe. I love that there's masks in this one. 8 of Swords. And this is a very disturbing card. We have, it looks like a mother drowning her child. So we have some very powerful images in this deck. Here we brought back the 3 demons and the devil card. Let me know in the comments below if you have this deck, if you've worked with it, how you work with it, if you're more knowledgeable about Dante than I am, whether this depends very much on familiarizing yourself with his work in order to be able to use this deck. So this is not a gilded deck. It looks like it might be or ought to be, but I appreciate that it's not. I am not a major fan of gilding on decks. So, there we have it, the Dante Tarot. Be curious to hear your thoughts on this deck. And I will see you all again very soon. Take care.